Chapter 1. You see his face, but it doesn't belong to the man you knew. You don't knock. The guard lets you in with a nod, and the steel door closes behind you with a hiss that sounds far too final. The air inside the chamber is still, sterile, clinical, like the vacuum-sealed thoughts you're trying to hold together. The walls are smooth and bare. Not even an echo answers your breath. Then he turns. Thomas, you expected relief. You rehearsed this moment the way you'd fall into his arms, the way he'd look shocked, broken, grateful. You told yourself over and over that this was what you were here for. But the man standing across from you doesn't look shocked. He looks amused. There's no stagger in his step, no hesitation in his stance. His shoulders are square, his hands calm. His eyes sweep over you once, not as a man reunited with his wife, but like a chess player reviewing the position of a long-neglected piece. Well, he says softly, they sent you. Your lips part, but nothing comes out. You weren't prepared for this. Not for the way he looks at you. Not for the way he doesn't ask if you're all right. Not for the way he doesn't ask how you found him. Only, they sent you. You clear your throat. You disappeared. You left. No one knew where. You stop. The words taste artificial. All of it does. His gaze sharpens. You're good. He says, better than I expected. They trained you well. You feel the blood leave your face. This isn't a reunion. This is an interview. I wasn't trained. You lie. He smiles. It doesn't reach his eyes. You're wearing Olive's perfume. He murmurs. She never wore any. You know. She said it interfered with memory. You say nothing. Of course. You're not Olive. You don't have her silence. The air is cold now, a different kind of cold, quiet, and surgical. You feel it settle into the bones behind your ribs. So you ask, keeping your voice level, are you going to turn me in or help me? Thomas walks to the small table near the back of the room. He pours himself a glass of water. He doesn't offer you one. I'm not going to turn you in. He says, that would be messy, and I despise mess. You wait. He takes a sip. Assant? Chaos. Then another. Finally, why are you really here? You meet his gaze. To find you. He tilts his head. Why? Because people still think you're worth saving. You want to say, because someone somewhere still believes the world can't afford to lose minds like yours. But you don't say that, because looking at him now, you know it wouldn't matter. They said you were kidnapped. You say instead, his lips twitch, a comforting narrative. So you weren't. He sets the glass down, perfectly aligned with the edge of the table. His fingers linger on the rim. Do you believe in freedom? He asks. Sius, you don't answer. Because you already know this isn't a conversation. It's a test. Freedom from borders, from governments, from incompetence. That's what this place is. A sanctuary, a future. Your voice cracks the stillness. A cage built by smarter men. He chuckles. A cage. Yes, but one with a purpose. You take a step toward him. And Olive. Did she know, for the first time? Something shifts behind his eyes. A flicker. A shadow. She wasn't meant to follow. That's all he says. So, and suddenly, you know, you're not part of a rescue. You're part of a plan. Chapter 2. You came to rescue a victim, but the victim doesn't want saving you sit because he tells you to. That, in itself, is a problem. The chair is hard, metal-framed, designed to remind you that comfort is optional. Across from you, Thomas reclines in a worn leather armchair that doesn't match the rest of the room. It was brought in, you suspect, for him alone. You say nothing, and he seems to enjoy that. You know, he says, almost casually. When I left, I thought they'd send a man. One of Jessup's shadows, a clean-shaven patriot with nerves of wire and no imagination. Instead, they sent a woman, not Olive, you. He taps the edge of his glass with a single finger, rhythmic, like a metronome, like time, slipping through. And what did you expect to find? He asks. A prisoner, a defector begging to come home, a man drugged and dragged across borders. You meet his gaze. I expected a man who wanted out. And what did you find? A man who closed the door behind him. He smiles. But it isn't triumph. It's something sadder, like a joke he's tired of repeating. You think I've betrayed something, he says. But that's the illusion they sold you. Loyalty to flags, institutions, dead languages spoken in parliament halls. None of it matters. Do you know what matters? You already know the answer. Control? Empty. Exactly. He leans forward now, elbow resting on knee, eyes sharpening. You don't understand what we're building here. Real science, unchained from bureaucracy. No politicians asking us to slow down. No ethicists tapping the brakes. We can solve things. Hunger, war, disease, and no one to tell us we can't. But at what cost, you ask? He pauses, considers. That's always the question they ask. As if the world hasn't already paid its cost 1,000 times over. Hiroshima, Chernobyl, climate collapse. And who were the ones slowing progress then? Men with folders, governments with secrets, populations too frightened to change. He leans closer. We're changing it. You stare at him. You think this is progress. He nods. It's the only kind that matters. Do you think I left Olive because I stopped loving her? No. I left because she would never understand, because she would ask me to come back, because she believed there was still something worth saving outside this place. And you don't. I believe in what's next. You feel it then. The fracture between what you thought you were here for and what you're standing in the middle of. This isn't about rescuing Thomas Betterton. This is about deciding what you believe in. He stands. I'll give you the tour tomorrow, he says. You'll see what we're doing, who we're helping. And then you can decide if you still want to play spy. You rise slowly. And if I say no, he shrugs, then you'll go into the quiet rooms like the rest. You feel the chill behind his words. The walls have ears. So does the floor. You wonder how many people came before you, thinking they were walking into a prison, only to discover they were guests at a masquerade until the masks fell away. He walks to the door, opens it, but before you step through, he says, you know, in another world, I might have asked you to stay anyway. You're smart. You see too much. And there's something unfinished in you. You glance over your shoulder. Maybe, you say, that's what makes me dangerous. And then you step out, back into the hallway, where no one smiles, and every light buzzes a second too long. Sasi Sikwai. Chapter 3. You lie to stay alive. You learn to smile at the right time, not too wide, not too soft. You tilt your head. Let your eyes sparkle, but only faintly. Only when someone's watching, which is always. They give you a schedule, a room, a change of clothes, gray-blue slacks, no buttons. Synthetic fabric that doesn't wrinkle, doesn't scream. It whispers compliance. You wear it like a second skin. The building you now sleep in has no locks, but also no exits. Doors that open in one direction and never the other. A hallway that curves just slightly so you never quite see the end. It's designed that way. Like everything here, you're escorted by a woman named Gerda, blonde, deliberate, unsmiling. She introduces you to people without using titles. This is Dr. Vanya. This is Mikkel. This is the South Wing. And finally, this is your desk. Your desk, as if you'll be working here, as if this isn't a prison dressed up in language. But you play along. You sit through briefings that have no name. You listen to discussions about neuroadaptive algorithms, about mineral resource control, about drone coordination at population scale. You keep your lips pressed together and nod at the right moments. You repeat phrases you've heard them say, phrases like, "We can't be ethical until we have control." Minimanko. Or, "Stability requires shadow." You feel sick every time, but you smile. Sometimes you catch a look someone staring a beat too long. A twitch in a scientist's eye. A question that almost forms on their lips before dying in the mouth. They don't ask. They never ask. Everyone here has learned the same thing. Survival depends on pretending belief. You see Jessup once, just once, across a courtyard of broken stone and creeping vines. He's moving slowly, limping, head tilted slightly, like a man who's learned how to listen to pain. His eyes meet yours for only a second, then he looks away. You wonder if he's still one of them, or if he ever was. That night, you're invited to a small gathering. That's what Gerda calls it. The tone is casual, but when you arrive, the room is lit too carefully. Every face is alert. Every glass of wine untouched. A test, they ask you to speak. Snemeskig. What did Olive Betterton believe in a man with silver-rimmed glasses asks. His voice is polite. Too polite. You take a breath. She believed in order, you say, and in regret. Silence. The silver-rimmed man narrows his eyes. Regret for marrying a man who dreamed too loudly. You reply. The air thickens. Then the man nods. Dreamers die, he says, and visionaries replace them. You answer. You don't know where that line comes from. Maybe from some forgotten lecture in a past life. Maybe from watching too many people say too many things to survive. But it works. They nod, and the night ends without blood. You return to your room. You close the door, and you finally breathe. You look in the mirror. The face staring back at you is Olive's, but not Olive's. The makeup is gone. The lipstick has faded. Only the eyes remain, and they are yours. They are tired, but they are still watching. Chapter 4. You are given a new name, a new file, a new lie. They don't tell you. They print it. One morning, there's a folder waiting on your desk. No one hands it to you. No one says a word. It's just there, like an inevitability. You open it slowly. On the first page, a passport photo of you. Not Olive. You. But the name printed underneath isn't yours. Dr. Eliane Marchand. Age 34. Nationality, Franco-Belgian. Specialization, behavioral neurolinguistics. Previous assignment, Geneva Bioethics Symposium. Affiliation unregistered. It's not even a lie, it's a blueprint. A life built from air and paper and intention. You keep turning the pages. Employment history, academic references, security clearance levels, a psych profile, handwriting samples. It's all there. Even a list of your supposed views. Supports autonomous AI development. American. Rejects national patent restrictions. Believes information belongs to no state. You close the folder, and now you know they're not just observing, they're recruiting. You feel it in the way people look at you differently now. No longer with suspicion, now with expectation. Like you're one of them. Like you've been accepted. That terrifies you more than the alternative. Gerda appears at your shoulder. As always, silent until spoken to. But now her tone changes. Induction begins at 09:00 tomorrow. You nod. What's the topic, you ask? She looks at you, just briefly, and there's something faintly approving in her face. Human filtration systems. She replies, ideological modeling. And then she walks away. You're not sure if you want to vomit or applaud the symmetry. Later that evening, someone slips you a note, not a whisper, not a whisperer, just a note, folded between pages of a book in the quiet zone of the facility library. It reads, they believe in silence. Break it, and you'll see who they really are. It's unsigned. No fingerprints, no marks, just that single line. You fold it once, then again, and tuck it into the seam of your waistband, right under the skin, close enough to be remembered, small enough to die with you. If it comes to that, in your room, you sit with the file open on your lap. You practice the name, Eliane Marchand. You say it aloud once, twice, a third time. And it almost sounds like someone you used to know. Then you walk to the mirror and whisper it with a smile. And the smile holds, because the moment you speak the lie enough, it stops being one. Chapter 5. You find the woman who tried to leave and what they did to her. The map isn't official. It's etched in memory, passed to you through half sentences and subtle nods. A cleaning technician with nervous eyes lingers too long outside the service elevator. A glass engineer stutters when someone mentions Block E. Every fragment adds up. There's a floor not listed on your clearance chart. You find the way down just before midnight, when the hallways hum low and the motion sensors lag. You follow the corridor past the hydroponics wing, through a narrow panel marked maintenance, biological storage. There's no lock, only silence. You step inside. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust. The air is different here, cooler, heavier, with a faint chemical burn that clings to the tongue. At first, you think the room is empty. Then you see her. She's seated in a metal recliner, reclined too far back for comfort. Arms restrained by soft bands, head tilted slightly, as though the muscles have forgotten they're allowed to hold up a skull. She looks unfinished, not broken, not dead, just paused. A file sits on the table beside her. You pick it up. Subject Doctor. Colette Vasseur status, reclassification. Pending incident. Attempted departure. ideological breach. Recommendation: isolation plus neurochemical stabilization. There's a line scrawled at the bottom in different ink. Compliance loyalty. You stare at her, at the IV line feeding into her neck. You are haunted. At the way her lips move now and then, but no sound comes out. You whisper, Colette. A twitch in her fingers, her eyes open. One, then the other, and you see it the flicker. Not madness. Awareness. She's trapped inside her own skull. You step closer, kneel beside her. Whisper again. Can you hear me? She blinks. Once, slow, deliberate. She's still in there. You glance at the IV again. The bag is unlabeled. The fluid inside glows faintly under the fluorescence. They're not keeping her alive. They're keeping her quiet. You want to yank it out, but you don't. You can't. Not yet. Instead, you reach for a pen on the side table and a napkin, write 4 words. Still fighting. You hold it up. She stares. Then, slowly, a blink. Yes. Then she mouths something. It takes you a second to piece it together. You lean close. Her lips say, they watch the watchers. Then her eyes dart to the ceiling. Just once. You leave the note with her, but keep the pen. You don't look up. You just walk out. Slow and steady, counting every breath. When you return to your room, your hands are shaking. And in your mind, her face stays burned like a photograph caught mid-fire. You lie awake all night. And for the first time, you realize escape is not about doors. It's about memory. And what they're willing to erase. Chapter 6. You begin to doubt who the real monsters are. It starts with laughter. Soft, elegant, filtered through conversation. You're in the common lounge, what passes for a social space in this place. Long tables, tea, engineered pastries with nutrient tags printed on edible wafers. A violin recording plays low, like it's trying not to be noticed. You're seated between a data cryptologist and a medical ethicist. Both women. Both brilliant. Both smiling as if nothing outside these walls exists. They're talking about children. Children. Not data models or testing metrics. Real children. One has a daughter in France. The other adopted a boy from Belarus. They speak of birthdays, tantrums, favorite stories. You sip your tea. You nod. You try not to feel the world unraveling beneath your feet. Because these women, these mothers, are the ones writing algorithms to identify behavioral weaknesses in civilian populations. They're kind, they're careful, and they believe in everything being done here. You excuse yourself early. Say you have reading to catch up on. One of them touches your arm gently, says, "We're glad you're settling in, Elian." You smile. It hurts. Back in your room, you lock the door. Even though you know locks here are ceremonial at best. You look at your reflection. You still look like her. Olive, but the woman behind the eyes, she's starting to change. You write a name on your palm, Jessup. You underline it. You need to find him again. The next day, you're called to observe a new protocol test. Behavioral resilience simulation. They're testing a young man, maybe 22, with shaking hands and brilliant eyes. He's seated in a chair inside a glass room. A neural net wrapped around his skull. You watch. They feed him lies. Video of his mother in distress. Audio of friends screaming. Fake footage of global war zones. The goal, to see if he'll give up encrypted access codes from his prior assignment The scientist beside you takes notes. If he breaks, we wipe. If he holds, he advances. Advances to what you ask. Iskan. The scientist doesn't look up. Trust. The boy breaks on cycle 9. You turn away before they inject him. The scientist says, too idealistic. Not a good fit for our needs. That night, you pass Colette's door again. Still guarded, still quiet. You consider trying something. A distraction. A signal. But the hallway is different now. Cameras have been installed. Overt ones. They're no longer pretending you're not a threat. You return to your room. A new note is on your bed. This time, no envelope. Mom's. Just folded once. No signature. The system doesn't break you. It makes you part of itself. You sit on the edge of the bed, reading the line over and over. You think of Olive. You think of yourself. You think of the moment you smiled without meaning to, and suddenly, you're afraid of something far worse than death. You're afraid of forgetting what side you're on. Chapter 7. You spy on Betterton, and he's not alone. You follow him, not because it's part of your orders, because you're out of reasons not to. Betterton walks like a man with permission. He doesn't check corners, doesn't pause at thresholds. His badge gives him access to sectors you've only seen on schematics, hinted at in whispers. Sublevel red, the West Annex, the listening dome. Tonight, he skips all of them. He takes the garden path. It's ironic, a facility built on surveillance and silence. Yet someone had the idea to plant an orchard fruit trees that don't bear fruit. Artificial grass, wind simulated through narrow ducts, nature made sterile. You keep your distance. A low crouch behind the faux marble pillar by the hydrologic fountain. He's not alone. The second man appears from the shadows. Tall, bald, bone-thin like a blade. He wears no ID badge, which in this place is the same as a crown. Thomas speaks first. I've reviewed the trajectory model. If we accelerate phase 3, we'll trigger a surface echo. The UN will notice. The bald man's voice is cold iron. They already noticed. What matters is the latency in their response. You squint. You can't see his face, but something about the way he holds his hands behind his back feels rehearsed. Thomas and Craven, your stomach folds inward. The bald man says, "She believes she's still undercover." Thomas laughs. Not out loud, a dry exhale, like old paper folding. "She's too sharp," he says. "She'll see the fractures. She's already seeing them." The bald man replies, "That's why she'll be useful. Until she isn't." The wind shifts, and for one breath, the bald man's face turns toward the artificial moonlight. You recognize him, not from your briefings, from a photo Jessup once slid across a desk half-torn, labeled in pencil Boris, Olive's last word before dying. Boris, you swallow hard. The name echoes down your spine, like a warning bell. They begin to walk again. Slow, pacing deeper into the orchard. You don't follow. Not this time. You slip back into the building the way you came, silent, composed, invisible. Your heart pounds like it's trying to carve through bone. You sit on the edge of your bed and write the name on the inside of your wrist. Boris Ildkor. You don't sleep. Instead, you take out Colette's napkin note and lay it beside the one from the bed. They believe in silence. The system doesn't break you. It makes you part of itself. And now, another truth. Betterton is not the top. He's not even the architect. He's the mouthpiece. And Boris is the architect of something far deeper, far older, and far more dangerous than anything you prepared for. You press your palm against the mirror and whisper, "You were sent to find a man." Then you shake your head. No, you were sent to walk into a machine. Chapter 8. You steal the key, but not the way out. It happens just after 2 a.m. You time the shift change. You've watched it for days, how the guards outside Sector 4A rotate every 120 minutes. The man who replaces Gerda is taller, slower, favors his left side when walking. You learn that too. And you learn where he keeps his keys. He likes coffee. You bring him some. He likes you. You let him. And when he sets the cup down and smiles at your fake gratitude, you smile back and take what you need. No alarms. No suspicion. Only a long metal key with no markings, attached to a loop of faded leather, the kind that feels important only because it has no label. You walk casually, keeping your heartbeat in check. Down the West Annex, past the induction rooms, until you reach it, the door with no number. You check your surroundings, then slide the key into the lock. It turns, but what greets you on the other side is not an escape. It's a descent, a stairwell circular, metallic, unlit. You follow it down. 1 step, 2, 50. It coils like a spine beneath the facility. The temperature drops. The silence thickens. At the bottom, another door. This one opens into darkness. You flick the torch from your belt. The beam cuts through dust, metal, glass, rows of cots, not beds cots, and on them people sleeping. No IVs, no restraints, but still, utterly still. Some breathe, some don't. You walk past them slowly. Name tags on the footboards. Dr. Jan Reiner, Physics. Althea Morganson, Virology. Lieutenant Michael Cross, Military AI Systems. Subject 73, unidentified. You stop breathing. This isn't detention. It's storage. A voice cuts the dark. You weren't supposed to see this. You freeze. Turn. It's Jessup, but not as you remember him. His shirt is blood-stained. One eye is swollen shut. But he's upright, breathing, holding a piece of rebar in one hand, like it's all that's keeping him alive. You whisper, "How did you know time?" He says, "This is the end of the lie. This is where the missing come to sleep until they're needed, or until they're not." You stare at the rows. How many? Jessup winces. Hundreds. Some volunteered. Most didn't. What are they doing to them? Jessup coughs. Grimaces. Wiping them. Reprogramming. Saving them as assets for the future. Your hand grips the nearest cot. You're telling me Betterton knew about this. He built it. The floor feels thin beneath you, like glass. And above, the machine is still humming, still smiling. Still printing lies in your name. You kneel beside one of the cots. A girl, maybe 19, still wearing her university badge. Her eyes flicker under her lids. You whisper, "Can we wake them?" Jessup's silence is the answer. You press your hand to your chest, to the badge that says Dr. Elion Marchand, and for the first time, you want to scream, but you don't. Because now, you're not playing the role. You're rewriting it. Chapter 9. You are offered power. But at what price you expect to be dragged away in silence, injected, isolated, vanished into one of the cots. But instead, you're given breakfast, scrambled eggs, black coffee, steel-cut toast served in your room on a real tray with linen napkin. There's even orange juice. You know it's a performance, but you eat anyway because whatever comes next will require strength. At 10, Hauser sharp. Gerda arrives. 2 guards behind her. No guns drawn. No anger in her expression. Only protocol. You're requested in the White Room, she says. Not ordered. Not detained. Requested. You follow. The White Room isn't on the map. But you knew it existed. You just didn't think you'd be invited. Inside, no windows. No corners. No furniture, but a single black chair in the center of an endless white floor. Betterton is already there. He's standing. Alone, he doesn't look surprised. Sit, he says. You do. He watches you for a long moment. Then he says, you found the sleepers. You nod. I should be angry, he says. But I'm not. I was hoping you would. That almost breaks you. He steps forward, hands clasped behind his back. This place was never meant to be a secret forever. Just long enough for us to become too powerful to stop. You keep your voice calm. So what now? I disappear into one of the beds. Betterton smiles faintly. You misunderstand. I'm not going to kill you. He pauses. I'm going to offer you a promotion. You blink. What? There's a role here we've had trouble filling, he says. Someone with analytical discipline, psychological dexterity, enough distance from the mission to question it, but enough conviction to stay. He circles the chair slowly. Interrogation by force is inefficient. He continues. But interpretation of belief, that's where we learn. That's where control begins. We want someone to oversee. Cognitive filtration. You stare at him. You want me to become your ideological executioner. No, he says softly. I want you to help us decide who deserves to stay awake. The room tilts. He leans closer. You've seen the world out there. Governments chewing on their own teeth. Truth collapsing under opinion. Chaos dressed as democracy. You came here ready to die. Hillary, why not stay and shape what comes next instead? You want to scream. You want to strike him. But the worst part, you want to say yes, because a small voice somewhere deep is whispering. Maybe he's right. You meet his eyes, and you smile, just slightly, just enough. He nods. You'll begin observing tonight. Boris will brief you personally. You rise, shake his hand, and walk out of the room with a pulse that refuses to steady. Because now the mission has changed. You're not here to spy. You're not here to escape. You're here to infiltrate from within. And if you're going to burn this place to the ground, you'll need to learn how it breathes first. Chapter 10. You choose to betray one side to save another. The room is darker than you expect. Not white like before. Not cold like the labs. This one is paneled in matte black, lit only by a single filament bulb suspended from a wire that sways as if someone just left. You're alone, but only for a moment. Then the door clicks behind you. Boris enters. He says, not like a man, like gravity, silent, exact, deliberate. He doesn't offer his hand, doesn't introduce himself. You both know who he is. You've been briefed, he says, not asking. You nod. He gestures toward a table bare, except for a thick binder and a reel-to-reel recorder. You'll listen, he says. Then you'll tell me what the subject believes. You glance down. Subject No. 117. Colette Vasseur. The blood in your ears drowns everything for a beat. You look up. She's already classified. Classifications can change. Boris says simply, truth is fluid. Belief is more valuable than compliance. You reach for the play button, but your fingers hesitate. He notices it's not a punishment, Boris says. It's a test for her, for you, for all of us. The tape begins to spin, and Colette's voice filters into the room dry, raspy, but clear. I do not reject the system. I reject what it has become. You promised sanctuary. You built a cage. She's not pleading. She's testifying. Your throat tightens. You remember her eyes, locked in that trance beneath the IV. You remember her mouthing the words, "They watch the watchers." The interview continues. They ask about loyalty, about her refusal to continue with the neurological integrity trials, about her notes on predictive bias, about her refusal to rewrite data. She answers every question. Calm, rational, dangerous. You press stop. The tape flutters to silence. Boris says, Estimate. You speak slowly, carefully, belief intact. Systemic doubt rooted in moral principle, not sedition. Loyalty remains to original mission parameters, just not to you. Silence. He leans back slightly, evaluating you. And your recommendation. The air weighs 10 pounds heavier. You look down at the file. You see her photo. Pale skin. Sharp eyes. Still burning behind that chemical veil. You have two options. Option A. Reclassify. She goes under again. Permanently. Option B. Release. With oversight. You mark B. You push the file across the table. Boris watches you. Then nods. Interesting, he says. Unexpected. You say nothing, because you've just declared yourself. You've chosen a side. And now, the only question is, how long can you protect her before they realize you're not on their side at all? Chapter 11. You are found out. It starts with a pen, not a scream, not a gun, just a pen missing from your coat pocket. You don't notice until evening, until you're back in your room and reaching for it, expecting it to be there where you hid it, pressed against the lining like a buried weapon. But it's gone. And then it happens. The shift. You feel it before it arrives. The air in the hallway is quieter than usual. Too quiet. No technicians brushing past. No soft click of keyboards. Even the overhead lights dim, half a degree, as if the system is holding its breath. Then Gerda knocks. Softly, like she always does. But when you open the door, she isn't alone. Behind her stands the man you haven't seen in weeks. Jessup, or what's left of him. His face is bruised. His arm is in a sling. But his eyes, they're sharp, unforgiving, not looking at her. Looking at you? You gave me up. You say. Jessup's voice is low. No. But they didn't need me to. He steps aside, and behind him stands Boris. Of course, I thought we were beyond petty concealments. Boris says. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. You try to speak, but the words don't come. Because you don't know which betrayal they found. Colette, the key, the recording, or the smile that was too well timed. They don't arrest you. They invite you back to the White Room. You walk there under your own power. No cuffs, no guards, because power here isn't in the walls. It's in the silence. When you arrive, a new chair waits. This one smaller, lower, designed to make you look up. Betterton's already seated across from you. He looks tired, but not surprised. You're not the first, he says. You won't be the last. You study him. What gave me away? He lifts a folder from the table. Thin, crisp. Your file? The real one. Olive Betterton had a scar behind her left ear. He says, You don't. He slides the folder away. I wanted to believe you were her. For a while, I almost did. You say nothing. Because now the game is over, and only the reckoning remains. Boris folds his arms. There are two paths. He says, we erase you file, name, memory, or you become useful again. You blink. Useful how? He leans forward, voice calm as gravity. You were convincing enough to fool a system trained to detect deception. That kind of adaptability has value. Even after I lied to you. Boris smiles faintly. We're all liars here. Some are just more honest about it. Your hands are cold, but your mind is sharp. There's a third path. They just don't see it yet. So you breathe once, nod once, and say, then make me useful. Chapter 12. You are questioned. But the real threat isn't you. The room isn't white this time. It's slate gray, with a drain in the center of the floor. Nothing dramatic, just functional. There's a chair bolted to the tiles. You don't sit in it. Not yet. The man across from you does. Not Boris, not Betterton. A third figure, someone you haven't met. Which, in a place like this, means they're important. He doesn't give his name, but the way he folds his hands tells you everything. He's not here to negotiate. He's here to measure what you're worth. State your designation, he says. Eliane Marchand. He raises an eyebrow. You correct yourself. Hilary Craven. He nods. Who recruited you? Jessup. Purpose of your infiltration. To locate and extract Thomas Betterton. Outcome. Compromise. Betterton was not a hostage. He is a collaborator. Silence. Then, your assessment of Betterton's loyalties. Fractured. The man lifts his gaze. Explain. You take a breath. The words feel sharp on your tongue. He believes in the mission, but not the leadership. He sees Boris as a necessity, not a partner. There's resentment under his obedience. The man stares at you a long time. Then he leans back. Hey, you're not wrong, he says, and just like that, the entire conversation tilts. This wasn't an interrogation. It was a litmus test. He wasn't confirming your threat level. He was evaluating Betterton's. You don't trust him. You say quietly. The man doesn't deny it. There are variables we no longer control, he says. He was meant to be a symbol, a beginning. But beginnings often mistake themselves for endings. You realize then they're preparing to remove him, and they want to know if you're useful enough to survive his fall. He closes the folder in front of him. One more question. You nod. If we told you that the mission had changed, that you were no longer here to observe, but to replace, would you accept? You don't answer right away. You let the silence build. Then, slowly, you say, only if I write the terms. He stares at you. Then he smiles. Not warm, not cold, just strategic. You'll be notified. And just like that, the meeting is over. You're escorted out. No cuffs, no warnings. Just a sense that the floor beneath you has begun to shift and you're already sliding towards something you didn't ask for. That night, you sit alone in your room. You think about Betterton, about how the man you were sent to find is now a pawn in someone else's endgame, and you wonder if you're next, or if you've just been upgraded to queen. Chapter 13. You watch him break. They don't tell you where they're taking you, but you know before the door opens. The corridor is colder, longer, walls reinforced. This is where they take liabilities before decisions are finalized, not for punishment, for study. Us. The chamber is lined with mirrored glass. You're behind it, the observer now, no longer the watched. Inside the room, Betterton, alone. No restraints, no guards, just a single chair, a table, a glass of untouched water. His hair is disheveled, the line of his jaw sharper than you remember. He hasn't slept. You can feel it. They've been interrogating him, but not with violence, with doubt. Through the intercom, a calm voice, likely the man from the last chapter, speaks. What do you believe, Thomas? Betterton doesn't answer. You built the logic engine. You designed the trust matrix. And yet, here you sit, hesitant. Why? His lips part, dry, because it's too clean. That gets your attention. He continues, slowly. The machine works too well. It predicts unrest, quells resistance, filters loyalty. But something that efficient shouldn't be trusted. You lean forward. The voice asks, you're saying you fear your own design. Betterton's gaze lifts hollow, flickering. No. I fear the users. A pause. Then he says something you'll never forget. I used to think control was the endgame. That peace justified manipulation. But now, I understand peace without consent isn't peace. It's sedation. He runs a hand through his hair. I tried to build clarity. They used it to erase. He slams his fist on the table once. Quiet, but final. I became what I ran from. Your chest tightens, because this isn't a man defending himself. This is a man confessing to no one but himself. Asao Kamchiyo. The observer next to you, a woman with silver glasses, writes something on a clipboard. Then she says to you, without looking, he's beginning to rupture. You nod once, but inside, something burns. Because this was the man you were sent to find. Not the architect, not the traitor, but the human being lost inside his own creation. And now, they'll decide whether to wipe him or use him again. And you've just seen the fault line inside the master plan. The system doesn't just break people, it makes them break themselves. Chapter 14. You reunite with Colette, but she's not the same. You're escorted by no one. Just a key card and a line of green lights blinking you forward. Level 6. Sector Echo. They told you she'd been reclassified. Cognitive autonomy permitted under observational status, which is code for she woke up. And we're not sure what she is now. The door opens soundlessly. You step in. She's standing by the window. Not that there's anything to see. Just a projection of trees. Green, perfect, unmoving. She doesn't turn. Hello, Hillary. Her voice is soft, precise. You study her silhouette. Same frame, same posture, but different tempo. Like a song you remember played in a lower key. You approach slowly. I didn't think you'd recognize me. You say, I didn't. She replies, until I heard you breathe. That should make you smile. It doesn't. You stop an arm's length away. She turns now, and her eyes, they're clear, alert, awake. But there's no heat in them. Not cold either. Just filtered. I saw the transcript. She says, you chose to reclassify me. You nod. I didn't do it for them. I know, she says. Another pause. Then, I don't dream anymore. You blink. What? When they woke me up, I remembered everything, but I can't dream now. It's like something inside was amputated. The part that wanders. You look away. I thought I was saving you. You did. She says quietly, you just didn't realize what you were saving me for. You both stand there. Two survivors. Of what? You're not sure anymore. Finally, she walks to the desk, picks up a piece of paper, slides it toward you. It's a sketch, a diagram of the facility, but not the layout, the logic, flow of authority, decision hierarchies, cognitive leverage points, all mapped out in delicate lines and soft pencil strokes. You stare at it. This is, Colette finishes the sentence, the nervous system of the machine. You meet her eyes. Why did you draw this? She shrugs. Because they woke me up. But they forgot to change who I am. You exhale, hard, because in this moment, for the first time since you arrived, you see a way out. Not a door, not a tunnel, a pressure point, something that can be broken. She leans closer. There's a flaw, she whispers. And I think you already know where. Your pulse spikes. That's me. Because she's right, and you're not alone anymore. Chapter 15. You go back to Jessup. But someone got to him. First, you don't run. Running draws attention. Instead, you walk with purpose, badge clipped. Eyes forward. Mind splitting into 10 directions. Jessup is the only one who knows both what's inside the system and where it bleeds. If there's going to be an exit, or a strike, or a sabotage, it starts with him. But the moment you reach level 3, something is off. The hallway is too clean. No ambient hum from the nearby labs. No scent of metal or ozone. Just sterile air. The door to his quarters is unlocked. That's the first sign. You step inside, and that's when the silence starts screaming. No body, but blood. On the table, on the floor, a splash against the far wall, as if someone had tried to resist and failed. You breathe through your nose. Focus. The room isn't wrecked. No sign of a struggle. No overturned furniture, which means it was fast. On the desk, a note. No handwriting, just a printed slip, typed with surgical precision. He asked the wrong question. You'll be asked the right one. Your fingers tighten. You scan the room. There beneath the bed, a sliver of black casing just barely visible. You kneel. Pull it out. A recorder. Analog. You press play. Static. Then Jessup's voice. Quiet. Calm. Controlled. If you're hearing this, they got to me. Don't mourn. Don't react. Just listen. The node on level 5. Sector Theta isn't just a data cache. It's a behavioral override system. That's where they rewrite intent. That's where they turn dissent into service. They did it to Reiner. They tried it on Colette. They failed. They won't try. They'll promote you. Pause. Use it. Get inside. Make them trust you. And when the door opens, don't hesitate. Click. Silence. Then the tape auto-rewinds with a whirring buzz, as if mocking you. You stand, hands cold, mind burning. Jessup's gone, but he left the map. He died making sure you still had a way through. And now, you don't just want out. You want justice. But justice in this place is a myth. So, you settle for something colder, sharper. You want to crack the system from its heart. And you know exactly where the first blow will land. Chapter 16. You enter Sector Theta and discover what they're really controlling. Accessing Sector Theta requires no codes. That's the first trap. The second is subtler. They expect you. The guards don't blink. The corridor scans you and turns green. You realize too late Sector Theta isn't restricted because it's hidden. It's restricted because it changes you. The doors seal behind you with a hiss that sounds like exhale. Inside, absolute quiet. But the room hums, not with sound, but with intention. It's a cathedral of computation, a hive of glowing panels, softly pulsing like heartbeats. Monitors line the curved walls. But they don't show security feeds. They show people in mid-conversation, mid-thought, mid-doubt. You recognize faces. Not names, but the emotions flickering across them. Hesitation, confusion, obedience, loyalty. And at the center, suspended like a relic, in glass the core, a black prism rotating slowly, as if deciding whether to trust gravity. You step closer. A woman in white intercepts you. Not a guard, not a scientist, an interpreter. Her badge reads Dr. S. Yates, intent calibration. She gestures calmly. You're early, she says. You say nothing. She waves toward the core. This is where we adjust the difference between thought and action. People don't rebel because they want to. They rebel because they misunderstand purpose. We correct that misunderstanding. Your voice is ice. By rewriting them, Dr. Yates tilts her head. No. By making them comfortable with the truth they were resisting. You glance back at the monitors. One man cries silently. Another repeats a phrase over and over. The mission is peace. They're not restrained. You say, no need. The recalibration works best when they believe it's their choice to change. You feel nausea rise. This isn't a prison. It's a conversion engine. Yates steps closer. Her voice now almost kind. You were sent here to judge us. But what if we judged you instead and found you worthy? You don't respond because this is the beating heart. Not the tech, not the leaders, but this system that steals conviction and sells it back as enlightenment. You approach the core, feel its hum beneath your skin. There's a port at its base, unsecured. Jessup was right. The vulnerability isn't in the programming. It's in their arrogance. You slip the drive from your coat. It fits the port like a key. Dr. Yates frowns slightly. That's not protocol. You press enter. The core stalls, just for a second. But in this place, a second is an act of war. Every monitor flickers, then shifts from people to their memories. Raw, unguarded, unfiltered. Colette, screaming in the dark. Reiner, on his knees. Betterton watching as the lights dimmed and the machine overrode his final refusal. You turn to Yates. What do you calibrate now? She opens her mouth, but no sound comes out. And for the first time since you arrived, you feel like someone real again. Chapter 17. You set a trap, and someone takes the bait. They restore the core within 2 hours. But by then, your fingerprints are already under its skin. What you left behind wasn't a virus. Too obvious. You left a mirror, a self-reflective loop. Every calibration now feeds back a copy to a buried node. One that only you and Jessup ever accessed. You call it Echo, and the next move is bait. You begin with a memo. Anonymous, encrypted. Leaked into the Level 4 admin queue, where security just happens to monitor flagged sentiment. Subject line RE. Theta breach. Internal compliance manipulation detected. Body. Do you truly believe we're the ones doing the controlling anymore? No name, no signature, but just enough metadata to make it smell like internal dissent. You know how they work now. They won't confront. They'll investigate quietly, hoping to trap the whisperer in their own echo. So you wait, and they come. Not to you. To Betterton, it's perfect. He's already marked, already broken in their eyes, already doubted. You monitor the feed from Observation Deck C. The team, 4 operatives in slate gray, enters his quarters at 0314. They don't ask. They search. They don't find what they're looking for, because it's not there. It's never been there. But Betterton reacts exactly as you knew he would. Anger, confusion, and worst of all, certainty that someone else inside the system believes him. Now the trap has teeth. At 0752, a file surfaces in the executive channel. A reassessment request. Subject Dr. T. Betterton. Clearance review. Loyalty score. Reassessment. Filed by unknown. And just like that, they begin to eat their own. That's when you move. You deliver a second message, this time to Colette. Encrypted. Visual. No text. Just an image of a door. Marked L5. No instructions. No date. But she'll understand. It's the same door from her sketch. You've seen its frame in Sector Theta's schematics. Behind it, the redundancy system. Every copy, every override, every black box file they've ever buried. It's where truth goes to disappear. Unless someone breaks the lock. At 11:20, a handler you've never met intercepts you in Corridor A. You've been promoted, she says flatly. To what? She smiles, almost proud. To Internal Integrity Protocol. You nod, but inside, you smile back, because now you're the one writing the audit reports. And your first target, the machine that taught people to forget who they were, you have just become its memory. Chapter 18. You enter the redundancy vault and find what was never supposed to be found. The door isn't locked. It never is, because no one who walks these halls is supposed to want what lies behind it. Sector LL5, the redundancy vault. A name that means nothing. A space that contains everything. You step inside. No guards, no lights, only the low hum of machines sleeping with one eye open. Colette follows 2 minutes later. No words between you. Just breath sinking in silence. The room is cold, not physically. Structurally. Like it remembers everything it was built to forget. Stacks of data slabs line the walls, black, unmarked, immune to any labeling system. But you know where to go, because Jessup told you what to look for. Section 12, Row Delta, Slab 191. You find it. Colette extracts the drive, thick, heavy, old-world tech. A relic from before they cleaned up their mistakes with clean interfaces and polite euphemisms. She plugs it into the analog converter clipped to her belt. The screen flickers to life. Text, subject. Reiner override failure. Notes classified. Then a video file. You press play, and suddenly, it's all there. Reiner, strapped to a chair. 2 operatives asking questions not to learn, but to erase. His voice jagged, breaking. You think calibration is mercy? It's not. It's lobotomy with better PR. A fist, a shock. But then he says something they didn't expect. There's a backup. There's always a backup. The operatives pause. One leans in. Where? Reiner grins, mouth bleeding. Inside, someone who'll never believe it's them. Click. The video ends. You and Colette sit in the dark. The hum louder now. You realize Reiner planted a seed in someone Maybe you, maybe her, maybe someone who hasn't woken up yet, but it exists. And this is the proof. You package the drive. You split copies, one with Colette, one inside your own encrypted badge channel, one sent silently to Echo, because if they trace one, they won't trace all. Colette looks at you. What now? You say it without hesitation. Yes. We burn the mask. She nods, because now it's no longer about escape. It's about infection, letting truth leak into the system like poison. So slowly, they won't notice it's killing them until the collapse is irreversible. Behind you, the lights flicker. Sector L5 doesn't recognize your clearance anymore. It's waking up, but you're already gone. Chapter 19. You trigger the leak, and they finally see you. You time the leak for shift change. 1904. The corridor, chatter masks packet bursts. The interface gates are in their brief sleep cycle. No one notices the signal drift until it's too late. You plug into the secondary relay port beneath the West Archive stairwell. Obsolete, ignored, but not dead. Inside your hand is the seed drive. Not Jessup's, yours. Encrypted under 3 layers. You only need one command. Exec Echo Spectre Rise. Transmission begins. First, it hits the lower clearance terminals. Then the diagnostics queue. By the time it reaches executive bandwidth, the content is everywhere. Reiner's override footage. Betterton's fragmented confession. The theta recalibration schema mapped to names, departments, dates, and the most damning file, Colette's mind map of the entire intent hierarchy. And with each frame, the system blinks. Cameras freeze, alerts trip, rooms seal, but too late. The virus isn't technical, it's ideological. It asks one question: if the truth can be overwritten, what part of you is real? At 1909, your internal credentials are revoked. At 1910, your clearance is marked Hostile Vector Alpha. And at 1911, you appear on every screen, not a mugshot. A video recorded from your quarters the night before. You looking into the lens, calm, steady, alive. You taught us not to fear truth. You just didn't expect us to believe in it without your permission. You erased memory. You rewrote belief. You called it calibration. Now we remember. And remembering is the beginning of resistance. Click, the transmission ends, and the silence that follows is louder than alarms. Because now you're not a ghost. You're real, visible, named, targeted. But you're not running. You're walking into the center of the storm you just built. Colette meets you near the East Control stairwell. You just painted a target on your back, she says. You smile. Good. Let them aim. Because if you die now, you die as a vector. And if you live, you rewrite everything. Chapter 20. You break the machine. Or it breaks you. They come fast. 5-man security unit. No insignia. No names. Just visors, weapons, and a single protocol. Isolate. Extract. Erase. You and Colette are waiting. Level 2. Server spine. The physical root of their entire recalibration network. A maze of humming towers and pulsing signal conduits. Above you, 10 million lines of silent obedience. Below you, the virus, coiled like a spring. She looks at you. You sure about this? You nod. It only works if they get here in time. The first flash grenade rolls through the door. You turn away, count to 3. The burst burns the dark. But you were already moving. The firewall console lies ahead, blinking amber. They didn't patch the breach from Theta because they thought it was contained. You slam the drive into the port. The system resists. It knows. You force the override. Echo Spectre unlock root branch. Confirm, confirm, confirm. The entire room surges. Lights strobe red. Alarms weep across every level. In the monitors, faces blink into focus. Operators, subjects, engineers, even Betterton eyes wide as the scaffolding of his ideology collapses in real time. You speak into the global mic channel. This is not treason. This is retrieval. Of memory, of will, of selves. The security team breaks through. 3 raise weapons. 1 hesitates. You don't flinch because you're already in. And the system, it's already listening to you. Colette pulls the final lever. Manual ignition. One last failsafe Jessup designed. And then the surge. Not an explosion. Worse, clarity. Files unseal. Sessions surface. Every override logged. Every false loyalty ranked. Every erased refusal dated and named. The system doesn't crash. It wakes up, and in that moment, it sees you, not as threat, not as user, but as mirror, because you were the one thing it couldn't simulate choice. And that breaks it. The security team freezes. One drops his weapon. Another lowers his visor. Colette whispers. It's over. But you know better. It started. Because now, everyone who thought they were free knows they weren't. And that knowledge, it's contagious. You walk through the corridor of blinking monitors. No one stops you. No one dares. You were never meant to survive. But now, you're the version they can't delete. Isharwal, Chapter 21. Oh, I feel as if I'd woken up out of a nightmare, sighed Hillary. She stretched her arms wide above her head. They were sitting on the terrace of a hotel in Tangier. They had arrived there that morning by plane. Hillary went on. Did it all happen? It can't have. It happened all right, said Tom Betterton. But I agree with you, Olive. It was a nightmare. Ah, well, I'm out of it now. Jessup came along the terrace and sat down beside them. Where's Andy Peters? Asked Hillary. He'll be here presently, said Jessup. He has a bit of business to attend to. So Peters was one of your people, said Hillary. And he did things with phosphorus and a lead cigarette case that squirted radioactive material. I never knew a thing about that. No, said Jessup. You were both very discreet with each other, strictly speaking. Though, he isn't one of my people. He represents the U.S.A. That's what you meant by saying that if I actually reached Tom here, you hoped I should have protection. You meant Andy Peters. Jessup nodded. I hope you're not blaming me, said Jessup in his most owl-like manner, for not providing you with the desired end to your experience. Hillary looked puzzled. What end? A more sporting form of suicide, he said. Oh, that. She shook her head incredulously. That seems just as unreal as anything else. I've been Olive Betterton so long now that I'm feeling quite confused to be Hillary Craven again. Ah, said Jessup. There is my friend, LeBlanc. I must go and speak to him. He left them and walked along the terrace. Tom Betterton said quickly, Do one more thing for me. Will you? Olive. I call you Olive still. I've got used to it. Yes, of course. What is it? Walk along the terrace with me. Then come back here and say that I've gone up to my room to lie down. She looked at him questioningly. Why? What are you? I'm off, my dear. While the going's good. Off. Where? Anywhere. But why? Use your head, my dear girl. I don't know what the status is here. Tangier is an odd sort of place not under the jurisdiction of any particular country. But I know what'll happen if I come with the rest of you to Gibraltar. The first thing that'll happen when I get there, I shall be arrested. Hilary looked at him with concern. In the excitement of their escape from the unit, she had forgotten Tom Betterton's troubles. You mean the Official Secrets Act, or whatever they call it. But you can't really hope to get away, can you, Tom? Where can you go? I've told you. Anywhere. But is that feasible nowadays? There's money and all sorts of difficulties. He gave a short laugh. The money's all right. It's salted away where I can get at it under a new name. So you did take money. Of course I took money. But they'll track you down. They'll find it hard to do that. Don't you realize, Olive, that the description they'll have of me is quite unlike my present appearance? That's why I was so keen on this plastic surgery business. That's been the whole point. You see, to get away from England, bank some money, have my appearance altered in such a way that I'm safe for life. Hilary looked at him doubtfully. You're wrong, she said. I'm sure you're wrong. It'd be far better to go back and face the music. After all, it's not wartime. You'd only get a short term of imprisonment. I expect. What's the good of being hounded for the rest of your life? You don't understand, he said. You don't understand the first thing about it all. Come on, let's get going. There's no time to lose. But how are you going to get away from Tangier? I'll manage. Don't you worry. She got up from her seat and walked with him slowly along the terrace. She felt curiously inadequate and tongue-tied. She had fulfilled her obligations to Jessup and also to the dead woman, Olive Betterton. Now there was no more to do. She and Tom Betterton had shared weeks of the closest association, and yet she felt they were still strangers to each other. No bond of fellowship or friendship had grown up between them. They reached the end of the terrace. There was a small side door there, through the wall, which led out onto a narrow road which curved down the hill to the port. I shall slip out this way, Betterton said. Nobody's watching. So long. Good luck to you, said Hilary slowly. She stood there, watching Betterton as he went to the door and turned its handle. As the door opened, he stepped back a pace and stopped. 3 men stood in the doorway. 2 of them entered and came towards him. The first spoke formally. Thomas Betterton, I have here a warrant for your arrest. You will be held here in custody whilst extradition proceedings are taken. And Betterton turned sharply, but the other man had moved quickly round the other side of him. Instead, he turned back with a laugh. It's quite all right, he said, except that I'm not Thomas Betterton. The third man moved in through the doorway, came to stand by the side of the other 2. Oh, yes, you are, he said. You're Thomas Betterton. Betterton laughed. What you mean is that for the last month you've been living with me and hearing me called Thomas Betterton and hearing me call myself Thomas Betterton. The point is that I'm not Thomas Betterton. I met Betterton in Paris. I came on and took his place. Ask this lady if you don't believe me, he said. She came to join me, pretending to be my wife, and I recognized her as my wife. I did, didn't I? Hilary nodded her head. That, said Betterton, was because, not being Thomas Betterton, naturally, I didn't know Thomas Betterton's wife from Adam. I thought she was Thomas Betterton's wife. Afterwards, I had to think up some sort of explanation that would satisfy her. But that's the truth. So that's why you pretended to know me, cried Hilary. When you told me to play up, to keep up the deception, Betterton laughed again, confidently. I'm not Betterton, he said. Look at any photograph of Betterton, and you'll see I'm speaking the truth. Peters stepped forward. His voice when he spoke was totally unlike the voice of the Peters that Hilary had known so well. It was quiet and implacable. I've seen photographs of Betterton, he said, and I agree I wouldn't have recognized you as the man. But you are Thomas Betterton all the same, and I'll prove it. He seized Betterton with a sudden, strong grasp and tore off his jacket. If you're Thomas Betterton, he said, you've got a scar in the shape of a Z in the crook of your right elbow. As he spoke, he ripped up the shirt and bent back Betterton's arm. There you are, he said, pointing triumphantly. There are 2 lab assistants in the USA who'll testify to that. I know about it because Elsa wrote and told me when you did it. Elsa. Betterton stared at him. He began to shake nervously. Elsa. What about Elsa? Ask what the charge is against you. The police official stepped forward once more. The charge, he said, is murder in the 1st degree. Murder of your wife, Elsa Betterton. Chapter 22. I'm sorry, Olive. You've got to believe I'm sorry. About you. I mean, for your sake, I'd have given him one chance. I warned you that he'd be safer to stay in the unit, and yet I'd come halfway across the world to get him. And I meant to get him for what he did to Elsa. I don't understand. I don't understand anything. Who are you? I thought you knew that. I'm Boris Andrei Pavlov Glitter, Elsa's cousin. I was sent over to America from Poland, to a university there to complete my education. And the way things were in Europe, my uncle thought it best for me to take out American citizenship. I took the name of Andrew Peters. Then, when the war came, I went back to Europe. I worked for the resistance. I got my uncle and Elsa out of Poland, and they got to America. Elsa. I've told you about Elsa already. She was one of the first-class scientists of our time. It was Elsa who discovered Z-fission. Betterton was a young Canadian who was attached to Mannheim to help him in his experiments. He knew his job, but there was no more to him than that. He deliberately made love to Elsa and married her so as to be associated with her in the scientific work she was doing. When her experiments neared completion, and he realized what a big thing Z-fission was going to be, he deliberately poisoned her. Oh, no, no. Yes, there were no suspicions at the time. Betterton appeared heartbroken, threw himself with renewed ardor into his work, and then announced the Z-fission discovery as his own. It brought him what he wanted, fame and the recognition of being a first-class scientist. He thought it prudent after that to leave America and come to England. He went to Harwell and worked there. I was tied up in Europe for some time after the war ended, since I had a good knowledge of German, Russian, and Polish. I could do very useful work there. The letter that Elsa had written to me before she died disquieted me. The illness from which she was suffering and from which she died seemed to me mysterious and unaccounted for. When at last I got back to the USA, I started instituting inquiries. We won't go into it all, but I found what I was looking for. Enough, that is, to apply for an order for exhumation of the body. There was a young fellow in the district attorney's office who had been a great friend of Betterton. He was going over on a trip to Europe about that time, and I think that he visited Betterton, and in the course of his visit mentioned the exhumation. Betterton got the wind up. I imagine that he'd been already approached by agents of our friend, Mr. Aristides. Anyway, he now saw that there lay his best chance to avoid being arrested and tried for murder. He accepted the terms, stipulating that his facial appearance was to be completely changed. What actually happened, of course, was that he found himself in a very real captivity. Moreover, he found himself in a dangerous position there, since he was quite unable to deliver the goods, the scientific goods. That is to say, he was not and never had been a man of genius, and you followed him. Yes, when the newspapers were full of the sensational disappearance of the scientist, Thomas Betterton. I came over to England. A rather brilliant scientist friend of mine had had certain overtures made to him by a woman, a Mrs. Speeder, who worked for UNO. I discovered on arriving in England that she had had a meeting with Betterton. I played up to her, expressing left-wing views, rather exaggerating perhaps my scientific abilities. I thought, you see, that Betterton had gone behind the Iron Curtain where no one could reach him. Well, if nobody else could reach him, I was going to reach him. His lips set in a grim line. Elsa was a first-class scientist, and she was a beautiful and gentle woman. She'd been killed and robbed by the man whom she loved and trusted. If necessary, I was going to kill Betterton with my own hands. I see, said Hilary. Oh, I see now. I wrote to you, said Peters, when I got to England. Wrote to you, that is, in my Polish name, telling you the facts. He looked at her. I suppose you didn't believe me. You never answered. He shrugged his shoulders. Then I went to the intelligence people. At first I went there putting on an act, Polish officer, stiff, foreign, and correctly formal. I was suspicious just then of everybody. However, in the end, Jessup and I got together. He paused. This morning my quest has come to an end. Extradition will be applied for. Betterton will go to the USA and will stand his trial there. If he's acquitted, I have no more to say. He added grimly, but he won't be acquitted. The evidence is too strong. He paused, staring down over the sunlit gardens towards the sea. The hell of it is, he said, that you came out there to join him, and I met you and fell in love with you. It has been hell, Olive, believe me, so there we are. I'm the man who's responsible for sending your husband to the electric chair. We can't get away from it. It's a thing that you'll never be able to forget, even if you forgave it. He got up. Well, I wanted to tell you the whole story from my own lips. This is goodbye. He turned abruptly as Hilary stretched out a hand. Wait, she said. Wait. There is something you don't know. I'm not Betterton's wife. Betterton's wife. Olive. Betterton died at Casablanca. Jessup persuaded me to take her place. He wheeled round, staring at her. You're not Olive Betterton. No. Good Lord, said Andy Peters. Good Lord. He dropped heavily into a chair beside her. Olive, he said. Olive, my darling. Don't call me Olive. My name's Hillary. Hillary Craven. Hillary. He said it questioningly. I'll have to get used to that. He put his hand over hers. At the other end of the terrace, Jessup, discussing with LeBlanc various technical difficulties in the present situation, broke off in the middle of a sentence. You were saying, he asked absently. I said, mon cher, that it does not seem to me that we are going to be able to proceed against this animal of an Aristides. No, no, the Aristides always win. That is to say, they always manage to squirm out from under. But he'll have lost a lot of money, and he won't like that. And even Aristides can't keep death at bay forever. I should say he'll be coming up before the Supreme Justice before very long. From the look of him, what was it attracting your attention? My friend, those two, said Jessup. I sent Hillary Craven off on a journey to a destination unknown. But it seems to me that her journey's end is the usual one after all. LeBlanc looked puzzled for a moment. Then he said, Ah, yes, you're Shakespeare. You Frenchmen are so well read, said Jessup.